I would like to start with a question, okay? I expect a response just by raising your hands. How many of you guys engage with fake news? Sorry, social media. How many? Okay, that's good. You must have heard about this story, how Mr. Trump personally went into an inflatable and rescued or helped rescue Texas flood victims. I'm sure you're aware of that, isn't it? Yeah? About how Russia meddled or continues to meddle within the US democratic election process. This is the latest one. Considering what has happened with Brexit, okay, or what's not happening with Brexit, you must have heard about the recent call for these Remainer ministers to quit the government. Have you heard about this? It's quite recent. Yeah? Oh, this one was the best, okay? So this is a guy named George from Washington Post who one day, lost it by looking at this video because, come on, anyone who's looking at this video is going to be very disturbed. Until he discovered that it was artificially created. Claims on social media, okay? So how many of you are on WhatsApp? Use WhatsApp? Yeah? I have recently uncovered a phenomenon called as WhatsApp Doctor, okay? So I get messages on my WhatsApp telling me how to cure cancer, and the best of all, how I can get rid of diabetes within a week, okay? So I don't know where they get their medical degrees from, but that is damn effective, isn't it, to convince you? So social media is flooded with all these kinds of information, okay? It is very difficult for us, laymen like yourself, common people like us, to understand whether it is credible or whether it is not. And how is it that we understand whether it is credible or whether it is not, okay? So, fake news. It's a phenomena which is becoming very interesting as we go on, okay? Particularly because of the role social media has played within the political arena, okay? More and more political parties, more and more political activists, as well as politicians themselves are using social media as a tool for sending out their message, convincing people to vote for themselves. So what is fake news? Let me just define it before I move on, okay? So it is obviously false news story, sensational in its nature because it is intended to go viral online. Usually it is meant to discredit a person or a politician or a company or any public figure. So how did fake news come to be? Let us look at what is it that caused this fake news to erupt on social media. In my research, the first thing I realized was that the 24-hour news channels, the number of them were going up and up every year. Now, imagine 24 hours running a news channel. Where do you get all your content from, right? So there needs to be something that engages the audience and also gives them the TRP, that revenue, right? So something needs to go in there, something spicy, isn't it? To create that controversy. So that is one of the reasons. The other reason was rising populism. Now this is very interesting. Whether it's Trump in Russia, in US, or Putin in Russia, or Mr. Modi in India, okay? There's this element of hero worship, okay? Wherein we are blinded of logic and critical reasoning just because heroes can do nothing wrong, isn't it? Short attention of public spans, like yourself, like myself. I mean, when I flick through Facebook, I read like 100 stories in a couple of minutes or so. How many of them do I actually remember? Some of them leave an impression in my brain, okay? But I have no time to check whether they are true or not. It's already registered in my head, and it's there in my subconscious. It is a part of my belief. So these short attention spans are caused by this social media phenomenon, wherein we are exposed to too many ideas in a short amount of time. All this has led to something called as a citizen media trust deficit. When I refer to this media, I'm talking about the mainstream media, so the television channels, the newspapers, etc. So what is this citizen media trust deficit? We feel that our opinions and our ideas, our voice is misrepresented on television news or in the newspaper. We feel that you know what? This news channel, it is not allowing me to express myself. It is not an accurate representation of what I think or what my fellow countrymen think. There seems to be some agenda behind this. That's some people, how they feel. So as a result, social media took over, okay? Because one thing it did was, it allowed a symmetrical platform of engagement. That means a two-way. So for example, here, in a news channel, if something is said, I cannot, argue against it, unless I am a noted public figure. But on social media, I can comment straight away. My voice can be heard. I can still, get my words out. However, this became a problem because although social media created an opportunity in terms of allowing common citizens like us to, voice out our real opinions, they also created and triggered the phenomena of fake news. Because the beauty about social media is it offers everyone an equal chance to share their opinions, good and bad. So what was the outcome of this? Recently, Facebook was forced to remove 2,632 pages, okay, from their database. They said that we will counter against white nationalism, separatism, and Islamophobia, and all that kind of thing. But is it right for us to just leave it up to Facebook and the government to do something about fake news? Or do we have a role to play in that? Because one of the things that happened when those 2,632 pages were removed was what this page was removed as well. This is Resistors. They are a female activist group, okay, who were countering a white superiority rally in New York. Unfortunately, in that Facebook's deletion, conundrum, if you may call it that, they deleted some very credible activist group pages as well, negating the impact and the work that they'd done for a lot of years, a lot of time. So this is Tessa Lyons, the person in charge of running the war room against Facebook, fake news on Facebook. So she herself said that when it comes to fake news, the people who create and share it are not belonging to any ideology. They don't belong to any particular ethnicity or anything like that. They are in it for the money. They don't care about what the story is, as long as it can create a controversy, as long as it can create a disturbance within the society, they engage with it. So this is obviously becoming very dangerous, and Facebook can only do so much. So should we expect Facebook and the government to do all of the work? Or should we do something about it? After all, we put social in social media. So one of the research done within the Facebook fake news situation emerged with these results. The number of articles which are fake shared on Facebook, by those people above 65 years of age are 7 times as much as those shared by 18 to 29. So the older you are, you tend to share more fake news. That's what was the emerging conclusion from this study. Now, as a result, I found out that how is it that some of the citizens are actually countering fake news? What kind of mechanisms are they using in order to challenge fake news on Facebook? Finally, an interesting picture. So I come from Goa. Goa, anybody knows? I don't know. Okay, it's a smallest state in India, very fun-loving. Our motto is to be sossegado. You know what is sossegado in Portuguese means? Relaxed, chilled. Okay, so I was from this chilled state, grew up in a chilled environment, lots of beaches, all that. But ever since I've moved abroad and I look back at my own country, I realized that friends and family have gone against themselves because of ideological beliefs. And when I tried to uncover what was the reason of this, was because, they were challenging each other on social media, okay? And that has caused frictions between friends, friction between families. That was something very disturbing for me, coming from this peaceful state. So what I did was I started a research study wherein I looked at some of the Facebook groups, okay, which were based in Goa. Minimum had 80,000 members each within them. So instead of talking to the general members of the public, I started talking to the admins and moderators of this group who actually control these groups about asking them insights on Facebook and how is it that they counter Facebook. One of the things that I uncovered from there was that vigilantes, I call them vigilantes because they don't wear capes like Batman does, but they have a keyboard and a mouse, and their pursuit is to uncover the truth at any cost, not to allow disinformation, misinformation, or propaganda to be shared on Facebook. Now, how is it that they do that? Okay? The first thing that they did was provide a politically neutral two-way Facebook platform. So objectivity was the first requirement of becoming a member of that group. You cannot be biased. You cannot argue, something, your ideology or your opinion, without providing facts from credible news sources. This triggered a culture of people engaging with Facebook dialogues with real evidence coming from government websites, coming from credible news media stations, etc. So slowly this started becoming into a movement wherein everybody, the moment they wanted to share something on Facebook within this group, had to come up with evidence, credible evidence. And otherwise, the people would start engaging with that, and many lies would get countered, facts would be placed within that dialogue. So that was a good culture to have. The other thing that happened was they started these kind of forums, in huge numbers, which started building awareness. Awareness about things like repeated ad nausea. Social media can cause repeated ad nausea. Imagine, if you spend half an hour on Facebook, how many times a single story or an ad might repeat itself? If you observe, quite a number of times. And sometimes our human minds are wired in such a way, the more number of times we see it, the better it settles into our head. We almost start treating it as a fact. So they started uncovering these repeated ad nausea phenomena. They started pushing people to become the truth seeker. A lot of times when our friends or our families share a particular story on Facebook, we tend to think it is credible. Well, because we know that, friend or they are a member of the family, we think whatever they are saying is right. But no, these forums encourage people to go beyond that and actually look for the truth. And actually don't just consider something that is said by your superiors at work or your colleagues at work or someone you respect. Don't just take it, the way it is. Investigate it. Go into the pursuit of the truth. Uncover what is the truth. So, one of the conclusions that these moderators and administrators of these Facebook groups told me was that social media should never be the starting point of your, should be the starting point of your research, not the end point of creating your opinion. A lot of times we read a news story, that's it, our opinion is made. A redaction is made before facts are placed. That is the nature of social media, because that short attention span, the speed at which we operate on Facebook, it does not allow us to uncover the truth. And that is why this fake news is difficult to counter. So at this stage, we realize that social media is in the end a tool, and the tool is only as effective as the person who's using it. So this phenomenon was about making the people who use social media as a tool more aware and more effective in its use so that fake news could be countered. Looking at the future, from this study, what did we realize? I remember James mentioned in the morning about George Orwell in 1984, and I think he will be pleased by learning what I'm about to say. We realized that the mainstream media is placing more emphasis on partisan support rather than journalist accuracy. And that is why more and more people are becoming, more active on social media rather than trusting the news channels. As a result of this, we are not moving forward into a political digital utopia like we all were made to believe when social media came, saying that this is allowing a two-way dialogue to happen on politics, such a beautiful thing. But I'm afraid the research suggests it is not the case. We are not moving forward, but we are moving backwards into a digital dystopian future world, as George Orwell mentions in 1984. It is also showing some similarities. So some of the things that we are observing today are similar to what he alluded to as Ministry of Truth, wherein facts were which was created, the Ministry of Truth was created to enable facts to be deleted in the favor of falsehoods. So the idea was place a lie upon a lie upon a lie until the lie becomes the truth. because the truth is so deeply buried inside, nobody has the time or the effort to investigate it. So this is something that is shared on Facebook, such lies. And people like you and me, we are unaware of the true dangers, because how often do we know the real person who has created or sponsored any news? On Facebook or on mainstream media? Very rarely. We don't see the apparatus behind it, because a lot of mainstream media channels, as well as social media, is paid, isn't it? It's commercial, right? Even Facebook, they make money on every click that you have, right? Whether it's real news or whether it's fake news, they get their money. So here, we are not aware of the true, dangers of what we think is a democratic choice, sharing a story on Facebook. We also saw that the similarities of what is happening are very close to the rise of the popular political movements, which Herman and Chomsky talked about in 1988, wherein the manufacture of consent, and Fromm, when he talked about the work of freedom, okay, this may be at play in contemporary communication. So rather than thinking this is going to be a digital utopia, I think we need to go back into the past, particularly concentrate on Orwell, 1984, Fromm, and manufacture of consent, as well as I'll come to Homer Simpson in some time. And we need to see how these similarities are going to cause issues in the future. So the lessons are in the past. We just need to learn them. The reason I've put Homer Simpson over here is, he always says, it takes two people to lie. One to lie and the other person to listen. If you don't listen, the lie is incomplete. The circle is not complete. And the fake news stops there. But the problem is, we don't have enough vigilantes, like I found in Goa, in Wales. We don't have enough forums on Facebook which are dedicated to objectivity, which are dedicated to the pursuit of truth. Because a lot of time, truth's nature is such that it should appeal to our convenience, isn't it? It should appeal to what we really feel. Otherwise, we don't like to believe in that truth, because then it's inconvenient. However, this is something that is required today, because what is a democracy without involvement? If you're not involved in your democracy, is it really a democracy? It's not about going every 5 years and putting your vote. It's about engaging with every forum, whether it's Facebook, social media, anything, and trying to find out what is the objective truth, and not just listening to something that is convenient to our own ideology or is similar to the opinions of our friends. Our job as democratic citizens should be to challenge whoever it is for the truth, and be more active on social media, but also consciously active on social media. Not just treat it as an entertainment tool, because a lot of times its dangers are when it is used as a misinformation and propaganda tool. Thank you.